Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to be continuing with our mod highlight series, and once again we're going to be checking out OVN Lost Factions. Yep, it's that big of a mod. This time we're going to check out a rather unknown nation, that of Albion. A nation which is rather unknown in terms of lore due to the fact that they were covered in mists long ago, and it seems that the people of Albion themselves never advanced with time. There's a bunch of different conflicting lore pieces in all honesty, but it all can be attributed to the fact that Albion itself has always been considered more or less its own pocket dimension. So OVN Lost Factions takes what little we know about Albion and makes it as close to a DLC level faction as possible. You may notice that the character selection screen itself is a bit different to what most people are used to. Yes, there are two legendary characters, but they're both tied to the same event for the same faction. Don't worry, we're going to check them both out during the course of this video, so let's not waste any more time and jump right in. Your campaign will begin in the region of Albion as expected, where you already have potential enemies to your north and your south. There are only 3 settlements here, and it shouldn't be that long before you take them both. After which, the world itself is ripe for the taking. Since Albion itself is so small, you can pretty much go anywhere. The choice is completely yours. The construction tab itself might seem a bit small, but it does make a lot of sense for a minor race like Albion. Everything is tightly compact, where really you won't need that many different settlements. You can see through here that everything kind of fits with the theme of Albion in lore, where you've got buildings that not only spread corruption, but others which also get rid of it. And it's through here that you're introduced to your faction, where all of your units are stylized in the theme of Albion, which is very much based around the Celts themselves. Here you're going to get lightly armored, war-painted warriors. We will highlight and show off all the unit stats later on in this video. The technology tab in itself is rather interesting. At first glance, you might see this as a rather uninspired and empty tree. The visuals themselves can actually be deceived. You see, we have 5 separate branches, 3 main ones and 2 sub ones. So for the purpose of this video, let's describe them as 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, just being listed downwards. You are able to freely research through the first, 3rd and 5th branches. However, if you want access to branch 2, you will need to complete branch 1 and branch 3. Same thing can also be said for branch 4. You will need to complete branch 3 and branch 5. It's a rather interesting system where technology is essentially locked by other technology, so you more or less have to plan what you actually want to get done first. All the individual techs have their own purpose, and it feels like it works with the faction itself. Though personal suggestion here, go for the lowest branches first. The upkeep reduction one is an absolute must-have early on in game if you want to protect yourself in Albion, as you will attract enemy armies and you don't have access to walls, so you'll want to have at least 1 or 2 armies protecting your nation. As I mentioned at the start of the video, you have 2 different legendary lord choices for the same faction. However, you have access to none of them until turn 2. At the start of your second turn, a prompt will come up which will allow you to pick which one you want to lead your forces. You're not really given too much information here, which is a bit of a shame as you don't know which legendary character does what unless you've played through the mod before, but regardless of that, the element of choice is great. The first legendary lord is Morrigan, the Phantom Queen, a very squishy character in terms of stats. If she gets caught out, she will be slaughtered rather quickly. However, this is a character you will want leading from the back lines. She's a spellcaster with a few spells from a variety of different lores, but the majority of her spells themselves work around giving the enemy debuffs, which also plays into effect when you start seeing her uniquely added skills. They work around buffs and debuffs too. The character can be used to devastating effect if you can keep her safe, where she has access to a special flying mount which should keep her safe. The second legendary lord is Dural Durak, another spellcaster legendary lord once again, who is also rather squishy. But you do get the benefit of a chariot mount, which makes him quite decent in terms of armor value. The spells of this character are from a new lore of magic added in through this mod, which is the lore of the Truthsayers, also known as the lore of Albion. The lore itself is based around buffing up your troops more than anything, and interestingly enough, all his uniquely added skills seem to also focus around that too. This character is more focused around his own army than his own safety. Your faction effects are not affected by your chosen legendary lord. Instead, no matter who you choose, you will always get the same effects. Immune against attrition caused by chaos corruption. Public order minus 30% penalty due to presence or lack of corruption. Income from raiding increased by 25%, and an increase to ambush success chances by 25% once again. There's an interesting mechanic revolving around the Waystone buildings. As you can see on screen right now, there is a random army trying to launch an invasion of Albion. This is not an established faction, but rather an event-spawned army. There is a special building chain known as the Waystones, and as you progress through them, there is a chance that enemies will spawn randomly in the island of Albion in an effort to take over the territories. The higher you progress through the chain, the higher the chance that enemies will spawn, and they can be incredibly varied, which can lead for interesting fights. The best thing I suggest here is if you plan on expanding outside of your island, make sure to leave an army or two able to defend it, as you can get overwhelmed and the stacks can be quite powerful. And now we'll look towards the uniquely added characters, the first being the Truthsayer Lord, your army leader, which is also a spellcaster who has access to the lore of Albion. This is very similar to Dural Durak. The character itself is squishy, and it's focused around buffing up your troops, so you can lead from behind. Uniquely added skills focus around giving buffs to giants and so on, so if you want to work around a monster heavy army, this is the lord to do so. Next we have the war leader, your other lord type character. This is more or less what you can expect from every generic Lord character which focuses around melee combat, very much like the Empire General, the Marauder Chieftain and so on. You will notice however that this character has a specific branch. This focuses mostly around buffing up your troops. Yeah, there's a bit of a theme here, but it actually works out quite well, as the grand majority of the troops from Albion are very lightly armored, so buffs here and there, whether through spells or constant in terms of skills, work out quite nicely as you level up. You're going to want to buff up your troops as much as possible if you're going to want to fight against endgame stacks with no issues. We won't go too much into the heroes, as can be expected. They will act as a hero variant of the lords. They'll be a bit weaker, but more or less serve the same purpose on the battlefield. We will take the time however to look at all the units uniquely added through this mod. As always with these videos, if you want to inspect the stats a bit more, you can always pause wherever you need to. Albion has always been a rather large curiosity in terms of Warhammer fantasy lore. There's never really been too much to go about it. In fact, the most we learn about Albion itself is through a campaign supplement, where a bunch of different races will fight inside the island of Albion, but we really never see too much of the denizens themselves. Not a lot of art or miniatures actually existed in regards to Albion, barring a few here and there. The majority of the information that we do know is that it's very stylized on Celtic Britain, and I think the mod itself represents it extremely well. Visually, the units look fantastic. You get the feel of various tribesmen with all this, which is more or less what you can expect from the humans of Albion. My only real issue with the OVN Albion section is that there's no real sense of direction when picking a legendary lord. Just a simple tooltip is rather helpful. I understand that you can simply just restart your campaign, you're only in turn 2, but the loading screen itself is more of an inconvenience more than anything else. And a little explanation in regards to the Mists of Albion themselves would be rather useful, as it seems to be more or less a random occurrence, which for some reason also causes attrition whilst your armies are garrisoned inside of a settlement. I'm not sure if that's some sort of bug or not though. Your campaign will start off relatively slow in all honesty, and it's going to take a while before you start getting into that spring of things. And you have to make sure that whilst you expand you need to leave defensive forces. Yes, you can build up a garrison, but you don't have any access to walls, which means that you are a prime target when you start attacking different enemies. I've played through this mod fairly recently, both on livestream on a harder difficulty and more for some casual play. Both times I've encountered more or less the same occurrences. You will generally find that the High Elves will make contact with you in an effort to form an alliance fairly early on. Generally, the other Order races such as Bretonnia and the Empire will leave you alone, and you'll mostly be having more conflict with the Norskins and monstrous factions added in through OVN. Try and take out the Rotblood tribe, as I've noticed that they are quite dead set on attacking you, and it can be a bit of an issue if you forget about them and they attack your settlements without you knowing. It's more revolving around planning if anything. If you know where you're going to be moving, you can also leave a few armies behind in an effort to keep your areas defended. All in all, it's nice playing a Norska-esque type of faction which plays around the Order alignment more than anything else. If you more or less know how to play as Norska, then you won't really have too much of a problem as playing Albion. I do quite recommend it, especially if you're curious about Albion itself, as I feel it's been represented in a very lore-friendly way given the limitations. And it's most likely that, unfortunately, Albion may never get added in officially. There's just not really that much going for it. I've done some speculation on a way that it could be implemented, but even then, it just seems like one of those races and factions which seem very, very low on the priority list. Once again, thankfully we have mods like OVN Lost Factions, which implements races and factions that may never see the light of day officially. And the quality of this mod is absolutely fantastic, so it's more or less as close to an official release as you can pretty much get. As always, if you'd like to try out this faction if you already haven't done so, you can find a direct link to the mod in the description below. Please bear in mind that there are a few different other mods that you need to download in order to make OVN work, all of which can be listed on the right hand side of the mod page, and after doing so you will also have to download a faction unlocker to get access to the race and faction in the campaign map. And as always, if you know of any mods that you'd like to recommend to me and want to see it highlighted on the channel, you can always recommend a mod in the comment section below, or may I suggest joining the official Great Book of Grudges Discord, which can be found in the description below, as it's much easier to get in contact with me through there. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.